Welcome to Ayurveda and Spirituality with your host, Alakananda Ma, a renowned Ayurvedic expert and a graduate of a top London medical school. She is the principal of Alundi Ayurveda Gurukula, a unique apprenticeship-style school in Boulder, Colorado. She is a spiritual mother, teacher, flower essence maker, and storyteller. Join us as we uncover the timeless principles of Ayurveda, discover practical tips for enhancing vitality, and explore the deeper dimensions of spirituality that intertwine with the ancient science of life.
Namaste. Today, I'd like to talk a little bit about honoring time, rituals for life. I'll begin by quoting from Michael Meade. One purpose of creative ritual was to experience the connection to the other, as well as a deeper connection to oneself. That's why ancient people would say that ritual made me more aware of how I'm connected to life, to the earth, to the spirits, to the song of creation, and made me more aware of who I am inside at the level of my own being. What we've lost is partly the sense that we are each connected to the whole thing, that each human soul is secretly connected to the living soul of the world. It is ritual that endows our life with a sense of connection, and a life devoid of ritual is one that is alienated and disconnected. I was 13 in 1965 when Harvey Cox's book, The Secular City, was published. Young intellectuals like my parents and their friends eagerly discussed the book with me as an interested observer. At the time, we were living in Ipswich, formerly Gipperswick, a beautiful medieval city which I didn't experience as fundamentally secular. It was a place where the pealing of church bells marked the passage of time, and spires and church towers delineated space. But Harvey Cox had great points, as I saw more clearly when finally, in the mid-1980s, I came to America. We have created a world where space and time are merely commodities, where time is money, where an hour of your time is worth this much and an acre of land is worth this much. And yet, not all times are equal. To quote from Francis Thompson, Alpha and Omega, sadness and mirth, the springing music and its wasting breath. The fairest things in life are death and birth, and of these two, the fairer thing is death. Mystical twins of time inseparable, the younger hath the holier array, and hath the awfuller sway. It is the falling star that trails the light. It is the breaking wave that hath the might, the passing shower that rainbows maniple. Is it not so, O thou down-stricken day? Thou drawest thy splendours round thee in thy fall. High was thine eastern pomp inaugural, but thou dost set in statelier pageantry, lauded with tumults of a firmament. Thy visible music blasts make deaf the sky, thy cymbals clang to fire the Occident. Thou dost thy dying so triumphally, I see the crimson blaring of thy shawms. And that is from Ode to the Setting Sun. For indeed, not all times throughout the day are equal. should we not pause to honor the glorious rising sun and the incredible colors of the setting sun? We need some kind of rituals to honor sunrise and sunset. Here at Alandi, we have a very simple ritual, Agnihotra, where we do light a small fire in a pyramid-shaped copper pot, making offering in the morning to Surya, the sun as it rises, making offering in the evening to Agni, to fire, as the one light of the sun gives way to the multiple lights of the stars and the planets and the house lights and the street lights and the car lights. In many Indian homes, even if the Agnihotra is not performed, a samai, maybe that's only a Marathi word, but it's an oil lamp that is lit, and the woman of the house will light that lamp at sunset, and some Sandhya prayers will be recited. Find some way to honor the special times of day, the Sandhyas, the sunrise, and the sunset, for not all times are equal, as Francis Thompson explains to us. The month, not all times of the month are equal. Some ceremony needs to be there to honor the new and full moons. When I was living in Africa, if it was a full moon night, I knew I would not sleep, because there would be drumming all night long as people did the ceremonies that they did. I knew so little about the culture. I was there only for 2 months. But in Tanzania, I knew I wouldn't sleep on a full moon night, for it was a night of drumming and dancing. It was a night of ceremony and celebration. Throughout the month, honor the new and the full moons. Again, here at Alandi, we'll do, when the weather permits, a fire ceremony out of doors for the new and full moons. In these cold time of year, or when there's a fire ban, we'll again take our little copper pot and do a healing fire ceremony for the new and the full moon. When we honor the new moon with ceremony, we sow a good seed for the month to come, the lunar cycle to come. And when we honor the full moon with ceremony, we receive the fruits of that good seed that we sowed on the new moon. We want to honor the year, and many of us are used to there being special times, special holidays, Easter and Christmas. Again, growing up in Britain, we had days off. The day off Whitsun, Whit Monday, the day after Whitsun, Easter Monday, the day after Easter. We had days off for these. We had Ascension Day off. We had days off for all the Christian holidays, and the Cockney people in London had amazing Easter Monday celebration with the Pearly Kings and the Pearly Queens. It was a whole festival. It was a whole pageant. But honoring the special times of year according to what our tradition is, that might be Christmas and Easter, that might be Passover, lighting the menorah on Hanukkah, which is not the Jewish form of Christmas. It's just another winter celebration or ceremony. It might be Ramadan, which rotates through the solar year because it's a month in a lunar month in a lunar year. Maybe we don't belong to any tradition that has these special times of year, but still we have our birthday. That's a special time. So thinking of special ceremonial times throughout the year, and every time that we do these ceremonies and these celebrations, it sinks into us a little more deeply. And another thing about ritual, about ceremony, you get into it what you put out. Sorry, you get out of it. I said that completely backwards. You get out of it what you put in. So if you put, the more effort that you put into a ceremony, the more you will get out of that ceremony. The ceremony that's coming up for us now in the Hindu year is going to be Mahashivaratri, the great night of Shiva, coming up on February 15th. That's going to be a time when people stay up all night and worship the Shiva Lingam. There are many other ceremonies that occur throughout our Vedic year. The more effort that we put into these ceremonies, the more we will get out of them. So it seems like a lot of work for a little thing, but it's actually putting in the work. It's actually the cleaning, the feather dusting, the cooking, the preparing that prepares our soul to receive that time of connection that Michael Meade talks about. So we want to put as much care and effort as we can into the ceremonies. And of course, if you're like Sadananda and me, you got way more ceremonies because we're going to definitely celebrate Christmas and Easter, Holy Week. We're going to celebrate the Jewish holidays. We're going to absolutely celebrate the holidays of the Hindu year. And sometimes we have like interesting questions that no one else will ever have, like which is more important, Shabbat or Shivaratri? And how do you juggle the different requirements of those ceremonies? But that's the thing about being a Hindu, Jubu, Hindu Christian, whatever. We have a lot more to celebrate, and each celebration marking the changes of the year gives us that wonderful opportunity to connect. We also need to honor time through our life cycle rituals. In Sanskrit, these are called samskaras. Perhaps you are part of a tradition that has these lifestyle rituals. Perhaps you've grown up in more of a secularized setting where you really didn't have any lifestyle rituals, although Reb Zalman would say, well, at least you put your tooth under your pillow for the tooth fairy. That's something. So how we may need to find ways to create new rituals to receive, to honor our own life situation in our contemporary world. Some new and different ceremonies that I've had the honor to participate in included creating a blessing basket for an adoptee, a little girl who had been adopted from China as a baby and was being welcomed into our community with a ceremony at her parents' home where each of us wrote a blessing on a piece of paper and put it into a blessing basket as we welcomed our new community member who didn't come to us through a birth but came to us through being adopted from a distant land and yet became an important part of our community. We also created for one child a baby's first bath ceremony. And this was a ceremony we did on the 8th day, similarly to how a Jewish child is welcomed, or at least a Jewish boy is welcomed with a circumcision on the 8th day. I'm not getting into whether circumcising babies without their permission is right or wrong. We're not getting into that right now, but it's a way of making that child a part of your community, because we don't connect with a community simply by being born, just as our little adoptee from China was born in a distant land, was brought in to be a part of our community. It's generally believed in many traditions that something has to happen above and beyond just being born. Something has to happen to bring us in an intentional way into community. So the ceremony that we created for this child was a first bath on the 8th day. We checked with the midwives, and it's totally fine not to bath baby. In fact, it can be good. Baby's wiped off and the vernix is rubbed in, and baby's just kept clean with some washing. But the first bath happened on baby's 8th day, and that was when, just as at the bris, at the circumcision of a Jewish boy, the name is also announced. The baby was bathed, and his name was announced, and he became, in this way, born a second time. As Jesus says, we have to be born twice. And in so many traditions, we are the twice born once out of our mother's womb, born once through ritual, through ceremony, born into connection with community and connection with the world around us. We also did a ritual for turning one. This ritual for turning one was created by the mother and adapted from a Korean ritual that I think is actually for the baby getting born, because in some traditions you're considered to be one when you're born. The counting is different. But this was done when he turned one, and a little altar was set up with different implements, and the baby was to crawl to that little altar and pick something, and whatever the baby picked would show what kind of profession the baby would take up, what kind of interest the baby would have. That was a pretty cool ceremony. A ritual for turning one is a ritual for turning from a baby into a little boy or a little girl. And another occasion, we did create a ritual for turning 3, and this was a very beautiful mother who nursed her baby until her baby was 3. And also did not cut her child's hair until that point. And we planned this out carefully. No hair cutting, nurse until 3. She managed to nurse until 3. Then we had a special ceremony. We kind of drew on things that you can create rituals, drawing on other rituals that you know about, and yet updating them and making them relevant for today. So she had a new dress, and she understood that nursing was over and that she had now passed from being a toddler to a little girl. Her hair is cut in a ritual way, and we're all gathered together and we all celebrate. And it's about connection. It's about a deeper involvement of that individual into community as we welcome that transition from being a nursing child to being a child that only eats food, has had a haircut, has new clothes, and is starting to learn new skills and step out into the world in a new way. Puberty rituals are another thing we need to think about. They are, of course, extremely important. If we do not give our child some kind of puberty or coming of age rituals, gangs are going to step in and offer other kinds of initiation. So a puberty ritual is really some kind of initiation. It's a time of choosing with intention a spiritual path for ourselves. So that could be a bar or bat mitzvah, in which that individual becomes a son or daughter of the commandments. They learn a passage from the Torah that they're able to read from the Hebrew scroll, and they take upon themselves the choice to live according to the commandments. In Catholicism and some other Christian traditions, this is the time of confirmation, where you receive the Holy Spirit. And in Catholicism, you even get to have a new name, which is pretty amazing. But you are confirmed because when you were baptized, that was one of the infancy rituals. That was being born a second time, being born through water and the Spirit. A second birth into community and connection. But you didn't choose that. But as you come through puberty, as you come into being a teenager and you go through your confirmation, that means you make a choice. You take this on. So there is something about the puberty ritual that is about affirming, I choose this type of connection. I choose this community. I choose for myself to walk a spiritual path. Of course, we all know a faith that a 12 or 13-year-old affirms is often a faith that is lost by a 17 or 18-year-old, because we have to lose our faith to find it. It was still our parents' faith. But we need to provide that opportunity to affirm connection. Then there certainly is the need, especially for the boy, the young man, of a manhood ritual. I remember how my brother created, in some very interesting way, he created his own manhood ritual by going on a long solo trek through Scotland, walking knife-edge ridges on his own, climbing things that no one else climbs without a rope, doing all this solo. This was back in the days when people did slideshows. Different tech back then. He came home and he gave us a slideshow so that his sisters and his parents and neighbors could see how he affirmed his manhood by choosing and taking on a difficult and a dangerous journey. May not be quite like what the young Maasai has to do to kill a lion. Luckily, he didn't get killed himself, and he didn't have to kill anything. But we certainly need to allow, most especially our young men, ceremony or ritual that affirms their manhood, that initiates them as having passed from a youth to a man. Weddings, of course, are a thing. That's pretty much what most people like to have, as a ritual, a ceremony, a celebration. There's an engagement ceremony, there's a wedding ceremony, and so on. But I've also created, actually, a divorce ceremony. And that can be done if there is an amicable and a kind situation. And we did it on Zoom because everyone was in a different place. And you don't have to invite, blah, blah, blah. It was just the three of us, the two exes and me. And we went through, I am sorry, all the things we're sorry for that perhaps led to that relationship breaking down. I am grateful, all the things you're grateful for from your soon-to-be ex-partner. And I will always remember the birth of our first child, whatever it is, things we will always remember. I will always remember when you did this thing for me. Every aspect of our life requires some kind of ritual, some kind of ceremony in order for us to stay connected. As women, we go through our menopause, and this can be one of the toughest times of life, and it can be very wonderful to honor our menopause with some kind of wise woman ceremony. I do talk about that much more extensively in my course, Ayurveda for Menopause, which you can get off of our website. But we need to create ceremony to honor us as we move into this whole new stage of life. It is best to honor that. One thing that we did for my menopause ceremony was a feeding ceremony where the women got together with me and the ritual. The men prepared food, and when we had finished the ritual, the men fed the women, and that was a really pretty interesting thing to do. I thought about even making a ceremony for the final stage of life. I was in a class with Reb Zalman while we were working on rituals, and I created a series of rituals for different stages of the woman's life, for the maiden, mother, queen, and crone. I didn't really quite like the idea of having a crone ceremony for my menopause because I didn't feel like a crone at that point. It was a crowning, a queen crowning ceremony, although crone actually means crown. It means different than what we think it means. But I envisioned a ceremony that's done when you're much older, an imaginary ceremony where everyone comes and gives you something that symbolizes responsibilities you have been taking up until now, things you've been doing for them up until now that you're now going to release. Kind of a cool idea. But the reality is, as people get older, at some point, you have to stop thinking about what mom and dad are going to do for me and start thinking about what am I going to do for mom and dad now that they're elderly, right? And maybe there would be a ceremony for that. Sitting under me as people that run an ashram. I joked that moment will never come. We are here for you for as long as we're going to be here. So yes, just some ideas. Not all times are equal. Honor time through ritual. Honor the special times of the day, the special times of the month. Special holidays throughout the year, but also marking the different phases of our life with ritual, because, as Michael Meade says, it is ritual that helps us to stay connected. It, in fact, is ritual that brings us out of alienation into a state of connection with community, connection with nature, and connection with the world around us.
Thank you for tuning in to Ayurveda and Spirituality with Alakananda Ma. We hope today's exploration has ignited a spark of curiosity and insight within you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and share it with a friend. For more enlightening discussions and practical wisdom on Ayurveda and spirituality, subscribe and join our Facebook group, Alundi Ayurveda. To allow us to continue sharing valuable content, consider donating to Alundi Ashram. The links will be in the show notes. Until next time, may you walk the path of Ayurveda with grace and embrace the light of spiritual wisdom in your journey.
Trayambakam yajamahe Sugandhim pushtivadanam Urvarukamiva bandanam Mrityormukshi